time to apply the IK spline handle to the rig system. Now, I've done all my binding. If I grab any one of these and rotate it, you can see where the rig is rotating. And as we talked about, the hierarchy, meaning in this case from T down to, that actually should be C1 there, 0, 1, is rotating. Okay, so I'm going to undo that, go back to my straight. Now I'm going to get the, I'm in the rigging menu set, skeleton, create IK spline handle. Important to make sure the auto create curve is not selected. Okay. All right. So go back. Now there's instructions, like I said, down here at the bottom. You can just see them at the bottom of the screen. So it's saying give me the start joint and it's asking me for the end joint. So what I'm going to do is zoom in. And for right now, it doesn't really matter, but I'm going to use, better turn this on to X-ray. And I'm looking for, well, let me show you if I just hide the polygons, if I can find the joints. There it is. That's my start joint. That's the one at the bottom. Now it's asking me for the end joint. And now it's asking me for the curve. Now what it did is it just snapped the curve, I'm sorry, it just snapped the rig, the collection of joints onto that curve. And if I put the polygons back on, they're now there as well. Let's turn off the X-ray. And now you can see that the polygons are really fitting pretty well to the curve. There's some issues right here. And one of the things I realized, if I had maybe been a little more careful and follow the data to make these actually that anterior dimension a little shorter, it would have prevented that crunch. But it's a little, these are probably a little big, meaning the gap. Cervical aren't bad. And if you notice, I did make the body of the cervical a little smaller, its height, than the posterior dimension. But basically, we've got now a relatively viable spine. Now, if I come over here into this side view, let's see, if I select that, anything, and I come on, make the side view and hit F, anytime you hit F in any of the active windows, it basically is the same as saying frame selection. Okay. So I'm going to turn off the polygons here. And I'm going to hide the joints as well. So now all I have is the curve. And if I switch to Control Vertex, if I grab any one of those points, they control the curve, which now controls the rig, which now controls the joints. So if I were to switch, let's say, to the front view, and for some reason, I wanted to show some kind of odd condition, I could move these joints and change the contour of the spinal column. Go back, and now I've got the originals. So that's a lot of work we did, but we got a pretty good result here. And again, if you refer to the section of the My Courses that has the this section on it, you'll see which one the data I used. Okay. Let me just close this YouTube thing that's screaming at me here. And this table is what I'm referring to. Let me see if I can get it to a size where you can see it real quick. So this is the table I used for this. I took the data from the table we were using before. This is the way I calculated T1 through 12. This is C1 through C7. I'm not sure why that says 8. That should be 7. And L1 through L5. And this is a view of what the sizes look like from the orthographic top window. So you can see how I tried to use the an average depth and width to calculate each of the elements, but I didn't try to change the subtle differences between cervical versus other cervicals. I always just did the C7 versus T1 and L1 versus T12. Okay, so we'll work on this more in class.